First contact. The vast expanse of space had always called to Dr. Elena Reyes. As lead astronomer at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, she had dedicated her life to searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. On a warm summer night in 2045, that search came to an unexpected and alarming end. Elena's eyes widened as she stared at the computer screen, her heart racing. The signal was unlike anything she had ever seen, a clear, repetitive pattern that couldn't be explained by any known cosmic phenomenon. She double-checked, triple-checked her findings, but there was no doubt. This was it. First contact. Dr. Reyes? Her assistant, Marco, called from across the room. You need to see this. Elena hurried over to the main display, where a live feed from one of their partner observatories in Chile was streaming. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw it, a massive object, easily the size of a small moon, decelerating as it approached Earth's orbit. My God, she whispered, they're here. Within hours, the news had spread across the globe. Governments scrambled to respond, militaries went on high alert, and civilians alternated between panic and awe. As one of the foremost experts in SETI, Elena found herself whisked away to a secure facility, joining a hastily assembled team of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel. United Nations Secretary-General Adebayo Okafor addressed the world, calling for calm and unity in the face of this momentous event. We stand at the threshold of a new era for humanity, he declared. Let us meet this moment with courage, wisdom, and an open mind. As the alien ship settled into a stable orbit around Earth, attempts at communication began. Radio signals, mathematical sequences, even simple pictographs were beamed towards the vessel. For 3 agonizing days, there was no response. Then, without warning, the ship began to move. Smaller craft detached from its hull, descending towards major cities across the planet. One of these shuttles landed on the grounds of the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Elena, along with a select group of human representatives, waited with bated breath as the shuttle's doors opened. The beings that emerged were unlike anything humanity had imagined. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, the aliens had iridescent, scale-like skin and multiple pairs of arms. Their faces were a mesmerizing blend of insectoid and reptilian features, with large, multifaceted eyes that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. The lead alien stepped forward, its mandibles clicking as it began to speak. To everyone's shock, the words that emerged were in perfect English. Greetings, humans. We are the Zenari, and we have come to claim this world as part of our ever-expanding empire. A murmur of disbelief and fear rippled through the assembled humans. Secretary-General Okafor, steeling himself, stepped forward to address the alien leader. We welcome you to Earth, he said, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his posture. But surely you must understand that this is our home. We have no desire to become part of any empire. The Zenari leader's mandibles clicked again, this time in what seemed to be amusement. Your desires are irrelevant. We have studied your civilization for some time now. You are primitive, divided, and woefully unprepared for the realities of the galaxy. Under our rule, you will be protected and guided towards a greater purpose. Elena, unable to contain herself, spoke up. But we've made incredible advancements in recent years. Our technology is laughable, the Zenari interrupted. Your most advanced craft can barely escape your own atmosphere. Your weapons are crude and ineffective. Your cities are vulnerable. You have nothing that could hope to stand against us. As if to emphasize the point, a beam of energy lanced down from the Zenari mothership, vaporizing an uninhabited island in the Pacific. The display of power sent shockwaves across the globe, both literally and figuratively. You have one Earth rotation to surrender control of your planet, the Zenari leader declared. Resist, and we will take it by force. The choice is yours. With that, the aliens returned to their shuttle, leaving the human delegation in stunned silence. As the craft lifted off, Elena turned to Secretary-General Okafor, her eyes blazing with a mix of fear and determination. "Sir," she said, her voice low and urgent, "we can't give up. There has to be something we can do." Okafor nodded grimly. "Get me the Security Council and every head of state on the line. We have less than 24 hours to save our world." As the gravity of the situation sank in, humanity faced its greatest challenge. The next day would determine not just the fate of nations, but the very future of the human race. In the shadow of an alien armada, with technology far beyond their own, the people of Earth would have to find a way to stand united and prove that humanity was not to be underestimated. Little did the Zenari know, they had made a crucial mistake. They had dismissed humans as weak and primitive, failing to recognize the incredible adaptability, creativity, and sheer determination that had allowed humanity to survive and thrive against all odds throughout its history. As the clock ticked down, plans were already being set in motion. In labs, military bases, and government facilities around the world, humans were preparing to show the Zenari just how dangerous it could be to underestimate the human spirit. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity was not going down without a fight. Preparing for war. The 24-hour ultimatum given by the Zenari sparked a frenzy of activity across the globe. In an unprecedented show of unity, world leaders set aside their differences and mobilized their nations to the fight ahead. The United Nations Security Council, expanded to include representatives from every country, became the nerve center for Earth's defense efforts. Dr. Elena Reyes found herself at the heart of this whirlwind, working alongside military strategists and fellow scientists to analyze every scrap of data they had on the Zenari. The aliens' display of power had been terrifying, but it had also given Earth's defenders valuable information about their technology. In a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Elena pored over sensor readings with Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant quantum physicist from Japan. "Look at these energy signatures," Yuki said, pointing to a complex graph on her tablet. "The Zenari weapons seem to operate on principles similar to our theoretical models of zero-point energy." Elena's eyes widened, but we're decades away from harnessing that kind of power. "Maybe not," Yuki replied, a glimmer of excitement in her eyes despite the dire circumstances. "What if we could use their own energy against them?" As the scientists brainstormed, similar scenes played out around the world. In Silicon Valley, tech geniuses worked around the clock to upgrade Earth's cyber defenses and develop AI systems to counter Zenari tactics. In Russia's Ural Mountains, engineers retrofitted Cold War-era bunkers with cutting-edge shield technology. And in laboratories from Beijing to Berlin, biologists and chemists sought ways to exploit potential weaknesses in Zenari physiology. Meanwhile, the world's military scrambled to prepare for the coming storm. General Maria Hernandez, newly appointed as the Supreme Commander of Earth's United Defense Forces, stood before a group of international military leaders at the Pentagon. "We can't match them ship for ship or gun for gun," she declared, her voice firm. "But we have something they don't expect, the home field advantage. We know this planet, every mountain, every ocean, every city. We'll use that knowledge to make Earth itself our weapon." Under her direction, a daring plan began to take shape. Stealth submarines were deployed to strategic points in the Earth's oceans, carrying payloads of newly developed quantum disruption torpedoes. Mountain ranges were hollowed out to house massive rail guns capable of launching projectiles into orbit. And in a move that would have seemed like science fiction mere weeks ago, the International Space Station was quickly retrofitted into a command and control center for Earth's fledgling space defense network. As the preparations continued, Secretary General Okafor addressed the people of Earth once again. His message was broadcast to every television, radio, and connected device on the planet. "My fellow citizens of Earth," he began, his voice steady and resolute. "The challenge we face is unprecedented in human history. The Zenari believe us to be weak, divided, and easily conquered. They have gravely underestimated the strength and spirit of humanity. In every nation, people are coming together, setting aside old rivalries to face this threat as one united human race. He paused, his eyes reflecting both the weight of responsibility and a fierce determination. We do not seek this conflict, but neither will we submit to tyranny. If the Zanari want our world, they will find that every mountain, every forest, every city, and every human being will resist them. We may be outgunned, but we will never be outmatched in courage, ingenuity, and the will to remain free. As Okafor's words resonated across the globe, a surge of unity and resolve swept through humanity. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, eager to play their part in the coming battle. Others contributed in different ways. Farmers working tirelessly to stockpile food, hackers pooling their skills to probe for weaknesses in Zanari systems, and ordinary citizens transforming their communities into fortified safe zones. In orbit, the Zanari watched these preparations with a mix of amusement and irritation. Their supreme commander, Zex Troll, observed the scurrying humans on countless view screens. Such futile effort, Zex Troll chittered to his subordinates. They build their pitiful defenses like insects shoring up a mound before a storm. It will make no difference. But not all the Zanari shared their leader's dismissive attitude. Science officer Kelvira had been studying human history and culture intensively since their arrival. She approached Zex Troll, her posture cautious but insistent. "Supreme Commander, I urge you to reconsider our approach," she said. "These humans have a history of achieving the impossible when backed into a corner. Their adaptability and creativity should not be underestimated." Zex Troll's multifaceted eyes flashed with anger. "You overstep, Kelvira. Your fascination with these primitives borders on insubordination. They are vermin to be crushed, nothing more." As the Zanari leadership dismissed the human threat, Elena and her team made a breakthrough. Working with quantum entanglement principles, they had developed a prototype device that could, in theory, disrupt the Zanari's energy weapons. "It's not perfect," Elena explained to General Hernandez and Secretary General Okafor. "The range is limited, and it requires enormous power. But if we can get close enough to their ships..." Okafor nodded gravely. "It may be our best shot. How soon can we have this ready for deployment?" "We'll need at least 48 hours to miniaturize the technology and install it on our craft," Elena replied. Hernandez's expression was grim. "We may not have 48 hours. Our intelligence suggests the Zanari are preparing for a full-scale assault. We need to buy more time." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the facility. A junior officer burst into the room, his face pale. "Sir, madam, we're detecting massive energy buildups in the Zanari fleet. They're mobilizing." The moment they had all been dreading had arrived. Earth's defenders rushed to their stations, activating the planetary defense grid. In cities around the world, civilians hurried to designated shelters, the wail of sirens filling the air. As the first Zanari ships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere, humanity steeled itself for the fight of its life. The carefully laid plans were about to be put to the test, and the fate of the entire human race hung in the balance. In the command center, Elena shared a determined look with her colleagues. They had done all they could to prepare. Now it was time to show the Zanari that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and against all odds, humanity intended to win. The battle begins. The sky burned. Zanari warships, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence, pierced through Earth's atmosphere in a terrifying display of power. As they descended, humanity's hastily prepared defenses roared to life. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Reyes stood shoulder to shoulder with military leaders and government officials, watching the unfolding chaos on massive holographic displays. General Maria Hernandez's voice cut through the tense atmosphere, sharp and decisive. "All stations, this is not a drill. Engage planetary defense grid. I repeat, engage planetary defense grid." Across the globe, hidden installations hummed to life. In the Himalayas, massive railguns swiveled skyward, their electromagnetic coils charging with enough power to light up entire cities. Beneath the waves, stealth submarines armed with quantum disruption torpedoes maneuvered into position, and in orbit, the transformed International Space Station, now bristling with experimental weapons, prepared for its first real combat. The Zanari struck first. Beams of searing energy lanced down from their ships, targeting major cities and military installations. But humanity was ready. Quantum shield generators, the product of round-the-clock work by scientists like Dr. Yuki Tanaka, sprang to life. The alien weapons met shimmering barriers of energy, their destructive power largely dissipated. Shields holding at 80% capacity, a technician called out. But they're adapting quickly. We can't take sustained fire like this. Elena nodded grimly. We knew this would happen. Time for Phase 2. On her command, Earth launched its counterattack. The railguns fired, sending hypersonic projectiles screaming into the sky. Most were intercepted by Zanari point defense systems, exploding in brilliant flashes. But a few found their mark, punching through alien hull plating and sending one of the smaller ships spiraling towards the Atlantic Ocean. In orbit, the space station unleashed a barrage of missiles. These weren't conventional warheads, but rather delivery systems for a nanoswarm developed in secret labs. As they impacted Zanari ships, the swarms began to eat away at critical systems, causing cascading failures. For a moment, it seemed as though humanity might have the upper hand, but the Zanari were far from defeated. Their supreme commander, Zex Troll, watched the battle unfold with growing rage. Impossible, he chittered. How are these primitives resisting us? Science Officer Kelvira, monitoring the human defenses, spoke up. Supreme Commander, I warned you about their adaptability. They've developed shields that can withstand our energy weapons, and their projectile technology is more advanced than we anticipated. Zextrail's multifaceted eyes flashed dangerously. Then we will show them the true might of the Zanari Empire. Prepare the world breaker. On Earth, the initial euphoria of successful resistance quickly gave way to grim reality. While humanity had bloodied the Zanari nose, the alien fleet was vast, and their technology still far superior. City after city fell under relentless assault, shields failing under sustained bombardment. In New York, the Statue of Liberty crumbled as a Zanari cruiser unleashed its full firepower on the harbor. In Beijing, the Great Wall became a last line of defense, ancient stone infused with modern shield technology to protect fleeing civilians. And in the skies over London, RAF pilots in upgraded Typhoon fighters engaged in desperate dogfights with Zanari scout ships, the fate of the city hanging in the balance. Back in the command center, Elena worked feverishly with her team to refine the quantum disruption technology. We need more power, she muttered, running simulations on her holographic display. If we could just get close enough to their main ships. Her thoughts were interrupted by a bone-chilling alarm. General Hernandez's face paled as she received the report. They're deploying some kind of super weapon, she announced, her voice tight. Energy readings are off the charts. On the main screen, a massive construct began to unfold from the Zanari mothership. It looked like a giant mechanical flower, its petals made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. As it opened, a ball of swirling energy formed at its center, growing larger by the second. My God, Secretary General Okafor whispered. What is that thing? The answer came moments later, as the world breaker fired. A beam of pure destruction lanced down from orbit, striking the heart of the Sahara Desert. The impact was catastrophic. The ground literally rippled like water, sand turning to glass in an instant. The shockwave spread outward, leveling everything in its path for hundreds of kilometers. Simulation complete, a grim-faced analyst reported. If they fire that weapon at any major population center. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood the implications. Millions would die in an instant, and the environmental damage would be irreparable. Elena's mind raced. The quantum disruption device wasn't ready for full deployment, but they were out of options. She turned to General Hernandez, her eyes blazing with determination. "We need to get that device onto their mothership," she said. "It's the only way to stop that weapon." Hernandez nodded, already formulating a plan. "We'll need volunteers. It's practically a suicide mission." "I'll go," Elena said without hesitation. "I know the device better than anyone. I can make the final calibrations en route." As they began to hash out the details of this desperate gambit, reports flooded in from around the world. The Zenari were pushing their advantage, their ground forces now teleporting directly into major cities. In the streets of Tokyo, Paris, and Cairo, human soldiers and hastily armed civilians fought pitched battles against alien shock troops. The fate of humanity hung by a thread. The world breaker loomed in orbit, preparing for another devastating strike. Earth's defenses were crumbling under the relentless Zenari assault. And somewhere in the chaos, a small team led by Dr. Elena Reyes prepared to embark on a mission that would either save their world or consign them all to alien subjugation. As she boarded the experimental craft that would carry them into orbit, Elena took one last look at the ravaged Earth below. The continents were scared with the fires of invasion, but the planet still shone blue and beautiful against the void of space. With renewed determination, she strapped herself in. "For Earth," she whispered, as the engines roared to life. The mission to save humanity had begun, human ingenuity unleashed. The experimental craft carrying Dr. Elena Reyes and her team streaked through the upper atmosphere, its advanced stealth systems barely keeping it off the Zenari scanners. Inside, Elena made final adjustments to the quantum disruption device, her hands steady despite the stakes. "ETA to mothership, 3 minutes," the pilot announced, his voice tense. Elena nodded, turning to address her team, a mix of scientists and special forces operatives. "Remember, we only get one shot at this. The device needs to be placed as close to their main power core as possible." As they approached the massive Zenari mothership, the true scale of humanity's challenge became apparent. The alien vessel dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed, its surface bristling with weapon emplacements and strange, pulsing energy conduits. "There," Elena pointed to a section of the ship that seemed to glow brighter than the rest. "That has to be where they're drawing power for the world breaker." The pilots skillfully maneuvered their craft towards the designated area, using debris from previous battles as cover. Just as they were about to reach their target, alarms blared. "We've been spotted," the pilot yelled, throwing the ship into evasive maneuvers. Zenari fighters swarmed towards them, energy beams slicing through space. The human craft jinked and rolled, its experimental shields barely holding against the onslaught. "We're not going to make it to the target zone," one of the Special Forces operatives growled. Elena's mind raced. They were so close, yet so far. Then an idea struck her. "The teleportation technology they've been using for ground assaults. Can we hack it?" One of the tech specialists nodded hesitantly. "Maybe, but we'd need to get much closer, and it would be a one-way trip." "Do it," Elena commanded. "Get us as close as you can," she told the pilot. "The rest of us will teleport directly into the ship." As the craft made its suicide run towards the mothership, Elena and her team prepared for teleportation. The ship shuddered under heavy fire, systems failing one by one. "Now or never," the pilot shouted. With a blinding flash, Elena and her team vanished from the doomed craft, reappearing moments later in a dimly lit corridor of the Zenari mothership. Alarms blared around them as the aliens realized their security had been breached. "Move," Elena ordered, clutching the quantum disruption device. They fought their way through the ship, the Special Forces team taking point and clearing a path. The alien architecture was disorienting, with gravity shifting unpredictably and walls that seemed to pulse with life. As they approached the central power core, resistance stiffened. Zenari defenders teleported in, their insectoid forms towering over the humans. A fierce firefight erupted, energy weapons clashing with traditional ballistics. "Cover me!" Elena shouted, sprinting towards the pulsing heart of the ship. She could feel the raw power emanating from the core, making her hair stand on end. Just as she reached the core, a massive Zenari warrior materialized in front of her. Elena froze, face to face with an alien twice her size. But before the creature could strike, a barrage of gunfire from her team sent it reeling. With trembling hands, Elena activated the quantum disruption device and slammed it against the power core. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the device hummed to life, its energy field expanding rapidly. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Zenari. Energy weapons throughout the ship flickered and died. The world breaker, poised to fire again, went dark, and deep within the mothership, a chain reaction began. "It's working," Elena exclaimed, "but we need to get out of here now." As the mothership began to tear itself apart, Elena and her surviving team members fought their way to an escape pod. They launched just as massive explosions began to ripple through the Zenari fleet. Back on Earth, cheers erupted in command centers worldwide as they witnessed the Zenari fleet falling into disarray. Without their energy weapons, and with their command structure in chaos, the alien invaders suddenly found themselves vulnerable. General Hernandez seized the moment. "All units, this is our chance. Launch everything we've got." Earth's remaining defenses roared to life with renewed vigor. Railguns that had been conserving power now fired at will. Submarines launched their full complement of quantum torpedoes, and in orbit, the upgraded International Space Station unleashed a barrage of kinetic strikes. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. Zenari ships, once seemingly invincible, now fell from the sky in droves. On the ground, human resistance fighters pushed back against alien ground forces, liberating occupied cities one block at a time. As Elena's escape pod streaked back towards Earth, she watched the space battle unfold with a mix of awe and relief. They had done it. Humanity had stood against an overwhelming alien force and emerged victorious. But the war was far from over. As the Zenari mothership exploded in a spectacular display visible from the ground, Elena knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The aliens still had forces on the ground, and there was no guarantee they wouldn't return with reinforcements. As her pod began its fiery descent through the atmosphere, Elena closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of hope. Humanity had proven its worth among the stars. Whatever came next, they would face it together, stronger and more united than ever before. The battle for Earth had been won, but the struggle for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. Counterattack. As Elena's escape pod hurtled towards Earth, the planet below was a patchwork of destruction and resistance. The Zenari invasion had left deep scars, but humanity's spirit remained unbroken. With their mothership destroyed and their energy weapons disabled, the alien forces found themselves in disarray, giving Earth's defenders the opening they desperately needed. The pod crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, where a U.S. Navy vessel quickly retrieved Elena and her team. As soon as she set foot on the ship's deck, she was whisked away to a secure communication room. The faces of world leaders, including Secretary General Okafor and General Hernandez, filled the screens. "Dr. Reyes," Okafor began, his voice filled with gratitude and urgency, "your mission was a success beyond our wildest hopes, but we need your expertise now more than ever." The Zenari are wounded, but not defeated. Elena nodded, still catching her breath. "What's our status?" General Hernandez took over, her face grim but determined. "We've managed to push them back in most major cities, but they're regrouping, adapting to traditional weaponry, and we're picking up distress signals from their fleet. They're calling for reinforcements." "How long do we have?" Elena asked. "Best estimate. A few days, maybe a week," Hernandez replied. "We need to capitalize on our advantage now, before they can regroup or their backup arrives." Over the next few hours, Elena worked with military strategists and fellow scientists to formulate a plan. The quantum disruption technology that had crippled the Zenari mothership could be adapted, miniaturized, and mass-produced. It wouldn't have the same devastating effect on smaller targets, but it could level the playing field. As factories around the world retooled to produce the new weapons, humanity launched its counteroffensive. In the ruins of Paris, French resistance fighters, armed with prototype disruptors, ambushed a Zenari patrol. The aliens, accustomed to energy shields protecting them, fell quickly to conventional firearms once their defenses were stripped away. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In the streets of Tokyo, samurai sword-wielding special forces, their blades enhanced with disruption fields, cut through Zenari armor like paper. Over the skies of New York, F-35 fighters, hastily equipped with disruptor pods, engaged in dogfights with alien craft, finally on equal footing. Elena found herself in the thick of the action, coordinating from a mobile command center as it raced across the American Midwest. They were pushing towards one of the largest remaining Zenari strongholds, a massive ground base established in the former Cheyenne Mountain complex. "Remember," she briefed the assault team, "the disruptors will take down their shields and disable their energy weapons, but these aliens are still formidable in physical combat. Stay alert, work together, and we can win this." The battle for Cheyenne Mountain was fierce. Zenari defenders, realizing their technological advantage was gone, fought with desperate ferocity. But human soldiers, bolstered by their recent victories and fighting for their home, pressed the attack relentlessly. Elena, monitoring the battle from just behind the front lines, noticed something odd in the Zenari communications they were intercepting. They're not just fighting, she realized. They're protecting something. Relaying this information to the assault team, Elena joined a small group of soldiers pushing deeper into the mountain complex. As they fought their way through twisting corridors, the reason for the Zenari's desperate defense became clear. In a vast chamber at the heart of the mountain, they found not weapons or strategic assets, but thousands of stasis pods. Each one contained a Zenari in suspended animation, civilians, young and old. "It's a colony ship," Elena breathed, the realization dawning. They weren't just invading. They were looking for a new home. This discovery changed everything. As word spread, the nature of the conflict shifted. Humanity had been fighting for survival, but now they held the fate of an entire alien civilization in their hands. In the following days, as the last pockets of Zenari resistance were contained, difficult discussions began. The Zenari leadership, what remained of it, requested parley. In a historic moment, Secretary General Okafor met with the alien representatives, not on a battlefield, but in the neutral ground of the United Nations headquarters. Elena, along with other key figures from the conflict, attended the negotiations. The Zenari, stripped of their military advantage, revealed the truth. Their own world was dying, rendered uninhabitable by ecological disaster. The invasion of Earth had been an act of desperation. As the talks progressed, an unprecedented proposal emerged. Earth would allow a limited number of Zenari to settle in designated areas in exchange for sharing their advanced technology. It was a controversial idea, met with resistance from many who had suffered during the invasion, but others saw an opportunity for humanity to take a monumental step forward. The debate raged on, in government chambers and public forums alike. The future of both species hung in the balance. As Elena looked out over the rebuilt skyline of New York, she realized that the real challenge was just beginning. Winning the war had been hard, but building a lasting peace between two vastly different civilizations would be the true test of humanity's strength and wisdom. The stars, once a distant dream, now seemed within reach. But the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. Humanity stood at the threshold of a new era, one that would redefine their place in the universe. Whatever came next, Elena knew one thing for certain: the human spirit, tested in the crucible of war, had emerged stronger than ever. The final chapter of this cosmic drama was yet to be written, and humanity would face it united, resilient, and unafraid. Triumph and aftermath. 5 years had passed since the Zenari invasion, and Earth had undergone a transformation that would have been unimaginable half a decade earlier. The scars of war still marked the planet's surface, but alongside them rose marvels of human and alien engineering. Dr. Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first joint human-Zenari space habitat in Earth's orbit. Below her, the blue marble of Earth slowly rotated, its night side now glittering with the lights of rebuilt cities and new settlements. "Quite a view, isn't it, Doctor?" A familiar voice chittered behind her. Elena turned to see Kelvira, the former Zenari science officer who had become a key figure in the post-war integration efforts. "It never gets old," Elena replied with a smile. "And please, after all we've been through, it's just Elena." The human and Zenari stood side by side, an image that would have been unthinkable during the invasion. Their unlikely friendship had become a symbol of the new era of cooperation between the two species. "The council is gathering," Kelvira said. "It's time." Elena nodded, taking a deep breath. Today's meeting would determine the future course of both humanity and the Zenari. As they made their way to the council chambers, Elena reflected on the tumultuous years that had followed the war. The integration of Zenari refugees had not been smooth. Many humans, still grieving losses from the invasion, resisted the idea of coexistence. Protests had erupted in cities around the world when the first settlement zones were established. But over time, as the benefits of Zenari technology became apparent, from revolutionary medical treatments to clean energy solutions, public opinion began to shift. The council chamber was a marvel of cross-species design, accommodating both human and Zenari physiologies. Representatives from Earth's nations sat alongside Zenari delegates, a sight that still amazed Elena every time she saw it. Secretary General Okafor, now nearing the end of his term, called the session to order. "Today," he began, his voice carrying the weight of history, "we vote on the Harmonization Accords. These agreements will formalize the alliance between Earth and the Zenari, establishing frameworks for technology exchange, cultural integration, and joint space exploration." The debate that followed was passionate but respectful. Some argued that humanity was moving too fast, that the wounds of war were still too fresh. Others pointed to the unprecedented advancements made possible by cooperation, the eradication of several deadly diseases, the first successful Mars colony, and the quantum leap in space travel technology. Elena was called upon to present the scientific perspective. As she stood to address the council, she felt the eyes of both species upon her. "5 years ago, we stood on the brink of annihilation," she began. "Today, we stand on the threshold of a new age. The Harmonization Accords aren't just about coexistence, they're about reaching our full potential as sentient beings. Together, we've already achieved more than either of our species could have alone. Imagine what we can accomplish in the decades to come." She paused, looking around the chamber. "But more than that, this alliance represents hope. Hope that different species can move past conflict and work together. Hope that the mistakes of the past don't have to define our future. As we look to the stars, we do so not as conquerors, but as explorers and partners." The chamber was silent as Elena concluded her speech. Then, slowly, applause began to build, from both humans and Zenari alike. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. The Harmonization Accords were ratified, ushering in a new chapter for both civilizations. As the council adjourned, Elena found herself approached by a group of young human and Zenari students, the first generation to grow up in this new integrated world. Dr. Reyes, one of the human students, asked, excitement shining in her eyes, "Is it true that the joint fleet will be launching the first extrasolar expedition next year?" Elena nodded, smiling at their enthusiasm. "That's right. We'll be exploring systems that neither humans nor Zenari have ever seen before, and who knows? Maybe you'll be on the crew for the next mission." As the students chatted excitedly among themselves, Kelvira joined Elena. "You've inspired them," the Zenari observed. "They see possibilities where our generations once saw only threats." Elena watched as the mixed group of young humans and Zenari walked away, already deep in animated discussion about the future. "That's the real victory," she said softly. "Not defeating each other, but learning to dream together." Later that evening, Elena returned to the observation deck. The Earth continued its eternal dance below, but now her gaze was drawn outward, to the star-studded expanse of space. Somewhere out there, other civilizations awaited discovery. Challenges, both known and unimaginable, lay ahead. But as she stood there, Elena felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity had faced its greatest trial and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had learned that strength came not just from technology or military might, but from unity, adaptability, and an unwavering spirit. The invasion that had nearly ended human civilization had instead launched it into a new era of exploration and cooperation. As the first ships of the joint human-Zenari fleet prepare for their historic journey to the stars, Elena knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever the universe held in store, humanity would face it with open minds, brave hearts, and hands extended in friendship, ready to write the next chapter of their cosmic story.